While Young Thug is not allowed to speak to the media himself, a snippet of an interview he did with his lawyers was recorded and shared at a concert in Atlanta. Here's the footage of the interview. Now, shortly after this message from Young Thug was released, we then saw Gunna share this message from jail. Gunna, being one of the 28 members of YSL arrested with Young Thug, went on to say, "2022 has been one of the best years of my life. Despite this difficult situation, this year I had the whole world pushing P. I used my art form, my gift from God, to change my circumstance. I worked, I perfected my craft. I worked, I empowered women in my industry. I worked, I lived in the recording studio. I worked, I lived on the road. I worked, and I worked every day to show how grateful I am for my gift, for my art, and for my life, and to be able to provide for my loved ones. For now, I don't have my freedom, but I am innocent. I am being falsely accused and will never stop fighting to clear my name." Now, both of the rappers' reaction to their cases are being released after the judge revealed a very important update in the YSL case. Now, in the latest court hearing, the judge detailed everything that you need to know about the case. Here's that footage.
He's the one directing traffic. He is the one they're all afraid of. He's the one that's King Slime. He is the most dangerous of the 28, Judge. And I implore you not to grant him a bond. He is dangerous. If he gets a burner, Judge, and the court may know this, a lot of the communications that Mr. Williams is on FaceTime, because it's not traceable, it's not trackable. Judge, I will also say that we have taken proffers from fellow from Mr. Williams. Some are on this indictment, some are not. They have stated uniformly that Mr. Williams is dangerous. They are afraid of him, that if they cross him, he will kill them and their family. And they were very clear about that.
Concerns that this court has is danger to persons and to intimidate other witnesses and obstruct the administration of justice. So and for those reasons in the aggregate, I'm going to deny bond at this time.
Now, this is something that no one expected. Members of YSL are now snitching on the head honcho Young Thug. After 28 members of YSL were arrested during the YSL mansion raid, a few of them are now creating proffer deals with the feds, meaning they are giving information on Young Thug in exchange for a lesser prison sentence for themselves. Here's a little bit of footage of the YSL mansion raid with Young Thug being arrested. Now, during the last court hearing, the judge revealed what the prison sentence length is for a RICO case of this sort. In court, it was announced that Young Thug and his YSL associates are responsible for over 50 passings of rival street members, as well as active uses of firearms in the public. Now, the Fulton County District Attorney, Fannie Willis, spoke with the local Atlanta news station, adding that the indictment reportedly includes allegations of 3 passings and dozens more. One passing has been identified as Donovan Thomas, as Young Thug has a major key in his passing, as it was revealed that Young Thug is accused of renting the 2014 Infiniti Q50 sedan that was used in the Thomas passing. They add, Thomas's passing is extremely significant. Willis said, "It occurred back in 2015, and what myself and any law enforcement member can tell you, as a result of the back and forth firearm use, many passings have occurred. There has probably been about 50 since 2015. Now this is all from the back and forth between YSL and other street teams." It was also during this hearing where Young Thug was once again denied bond. Now there was 3 main reasons why Young Thug will never be released on bond. You need to hear this. The first reason is how Young Thug operates his organization. During the hearing, it was revealed by YSL members that did snitch on Young Thug. They revealed that Young Thug is the head of the entire organization. Young Thug would often purchase used iPhones in bulk and use them as burner phones. He would use these phones to FaceTime his troops to handle his business on the streets, whether it was narcotic related, firearm related, or even going after rival street members for active crime. Now, the only app that Young Thug would use on these iPhones was FaceTime. He would FaceTime all of his quote-unquote troops to go commit these acts. Why only FaceTime? Well, when using FaceTime, it's impossible for law enforcement and cell phone providers to tap the phones and listen in on phone calls. Now, FaceTime is often used by street members as there's no trace of what is ever said in these calls. Not to mention, even if it was traceable, who's to say that someone doesn't FaceTime and just shake their head, meaning in referring to an act being done or a job being finished. Now, members that snitched also on Young Thugs labeled him as a dangerous human being. If you cross him, he will get you and your family. Now, the next reason why prosecutors say that Young Thug should never receive bond is because during the YSL mansion raid, where Young Thug lives and would return if released on bond, is littered with GTA-type firearms everywhere in the house. Now, during the YSL mansion raid, the law enforcement agents found multiple GTA-type firearms scattered around the house, firearms that law enforcement don't even know how he would have gotten them. So they used this to their advantage against Young Thug in the hearing, telling the judge he cannot allow Young Thug, the leader of YSL, to be near these firearms or anywhere near his YSL mansion, as he would also then be able to use social media to direct his troops to commit acts. Now, with the last reason being, even with Young Thug behind bars, he is still organizing crimes allegedly. An example of this is when the prosecution in the Young Thug case announced that they have proffers from members of YSL that name Young Thug as the head of the organization. We then saw No Jumper report this on Twitter. A YSL member was caught on an illegal cell phone, trying to get someone on the outside to destroy evidence in the Young Thug RICO case. Now, the county jail inmate using the illegal cell phone inside of jail allegedly came from the famous drone delivery. Now, 2 weeks ago, it was reported this evidence in court. Garlington in Quantavious did unlawfully commit the felony offense of conspiracy to possess telecommunication devices by an inmate. While speaking over a cell phone to an incarcerated Fulton County jail inmate, they discussed a plan to fly a drone carrying a cell phone beyond the guard lines to a window at the Fulton County jail. Now, to simplify what this evidence means, associates of YSL made a plan to fly cell phones that were taped to flying drones over the fence at the Fulton County jail. They would then land these cell phones near one of the jail windows at somebody's cell, where an inmate would then take the phones off of the drone and the drone would just fly away. Now, obviously, law enforcement, they watched the drone fly in. Rather than stopping the drone and confiscating the cell phone, they allowed the phone to be used by inmates, and law enforcement just wiretapped them. Now, with super creative police work, law enforcement tapped these phones and they were able to gain information on the YSL case. So, with all of this information being shared in the courtroom, why why Young Thug should not be released on bond, this is where Thug's lawyer then hopped in. Young Thug's defense team then shared why he should be released. You tell me if you would release Young Thug after hearing this. Now, Young Thug's lawyer shared this statement. Young Thug's lawyer filed an emergency motion in hopes of getting him released immediately on bond. Why the urgency? Attorney Brian Steele says the YSL honcho is being held in total isolation in a windowless cement compartment with only a bed and a toilet. He adds the jail cell has an overhead light that remains on 24 hours a day, preventing Young Thug from getting any sleep. Further, Steele says that Young Thug has no access to the media or any opportunity to exercise, shave, or have any human contact. And don't get him started on the food menu. According to his attorney, Young Thug is getting a tray of inedible food. Steele included quotes around the food sarcastically. Now, while it sounds like he's basically describing a stereotypical jail cell, Steele says the conditions violate Young Thug's constitutional rights in the 8th and 14th Amendments. Next, the rapper's attorney Brian Steele then offered a huge $1 million bond package. Young Thug and his label would then agree to spend $1 million paying off-duty police officers to live with him in the YSL mansion. This is to make sure he doesn't leave the property, commit any crimes, or do anything on these iPhone burners. Now, 300 Entertainment co-founder Kevin Liles even got on the stand and offered to co-sign Young Thug's bond. Now, after sharing why Young Thug should be released on bond, we then see Thug begin to pray. Young Thug was praying in front of the judge to be released, but sadly was denied once again. If you would like to see Young Thug released, leave a like on the video. I'm curious how many fans are watching today.